Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back once again to another Fallout 4 settlement build. This time around we're going to be taking a look at one of the standard raider homes, which I thought would be pretty neat considering last time we were here we took a look at the Overboss's room, which was a rather big building. So today I wanted to try mixing things up and try to show you how much you can do with a smaller space. And as always, we'll begin by checking out the front of the build, or outside of it, if you want to call it that. And you guys will have to let me know what you want to see in the future. But as a quick reference, we do have about 3 stories above this one. And I plan on making them each houses very similar to this, maybe with a more stylized look. So if you want to see those in separate videos, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and do them off camera. And I guess that way we can move on to some bigger or just different stuff in general. But today, instead of having to scurry around all over the place and kind of rush through each building, I just wanted to focus on this one, even though it is rather small. So out here we have the front deck, and I've tried to make it look quite raidery by throwing down, or throwing up in this case, some dead bodies and just guts and stuff. Though you also gotta remember that raiders are people too, so more often than not, they'd probably value some comfort as well. So you still gotta give them a couch or some place to set down a beer on. And that's pretty much what I've tried to do out here. Nothing too crazy. The main portion of the detail is definitely inside. But even when it comes to maybe less important areas like these, I would still recommend decorating them up as much as possible. But anyways, moving inside, I think the total amount of room we have in here is only about 3 floor spaces. And what makes it even tougher is that it's in this sort of L shape. So overall, you really do not have all that much room. And that being said, this building really isn't as stylized as some of the other places around here. But I have still tried to give it at least a little bit of a backstory. So as we go around the build today, you'll most likely catch a few things here and there that sort of hint to the fact that this guy's wife died not too long ago. So out back we have her grave. Now you may be wondering why there's a bathtub here. So my reasoning behind it was that since this is a town full of raiders, you'd imagine there would at least be 1 or 2 of them that could care less that this guy was one of their own, and would maybe still try to do a bit of grave robbing. So I figured the bathtub would not only disguise the grave a bit more, but also just provide one more obstacle that they would have to bust through. And not to mention it would probably make quite a bit more noise, so you never know, someone might catch them in the process. Also, in terms of that little backstory, are things like pictures of him and his wife, and then this love note here. And the thing I love about doing stuff like this is that you can sort of tell a story, and overall just kind of gives the build a bit more life. But now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and check out some of the other major details around here. So this area is pretty much his kitchen, or dining room I guess you could say, since this is where he eats most of his meals. He's also got a fridge full of food, other forms of storage like the barrel, toolbox, and even the armor stand. And so hopefully thus far all of this has kind of showed you that no matter how small the space is that you have to work with, as long as you kind of manage everything appropriately, you can still end up fitting in quite a bit of stuff. I mean, even just along this back wall we were able to fit in 3 different things. Moving on once again though, this is where we have the living room. Now unfortunately there is a bit of an odd lighting bug here. I think it's maybe because of one of these preset lights in the back. And what's weird about those is you can delete the item itself, but for some reason the light source always tends to stay. So I figured it would probably just be best to leave it there in the end and just kind of deal with it. And I guess now that I mention it, it's really not all that bad. And I guess on the bright side, it does do a great job of illuminating the Radstag head, or heads I should say. So there is that, and not to mention the other hanging body up there, which just kinda adds to the Raider theme. And also, speaking of that, you'll notice we have tons of chems down on the table. Oh, and this is one more thing I kind of forgot to mention regarding his wife, and that's the holotape down there. I was thinking on occasion he could get really drugged up to the point where he starts hallucinating, and when it came time for that, he would then listen to the holotape and maybe see visions of his wife. Also in this general area, we have a few more areas to store things, like the weapon locker, and even when it comes to smaller pieces of decoration like this, I always try and throw in a bit more, like the mini nuke up there, just so it doesn't seem too plain. And same goes for this box over here in the back. You can see around it I've thrown down a bin of weapons, a Grognak the Barbarian comic, and also some shotgun shells. And then last but certainly not least, we have his bedroom. Back here we have his bed, obviously, and off to the right hand side, one more chair in case he wanted to sit down and maybe smoke a cigarette. Also on that table are some medical supplies. Say for instance, maybe he came back from a raid empty-handed and didn't have the caps to pay the doctor to patch him up. So I thought I'd throw that down there, just to represent that maybe he has to patch himself up from time to time. And also in this area are just a few more supplies. And these include more beers for him to drink, more ammo, and also a lot of tools he could use to either repair armor or weapons if he needed to. But anyways guys, I think that'll just about do it for today. So like I said earlier, feel free to let me know if you want to see videos on the other Raider houses as well. And also if you have any ideas for them in terms of different themes and whatnot, I would love to hear those as well. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.